But my dad knew a cop and started driving school. I never drove before. Guy picks me up and takes me up to the mall, puts cones out and describing math and how to park. He goes, all right. She goes, let's go for a drive. And I go to get in the passenger seat. He goes, where are you going? Get in the driver's seat. I said, okay. And we're driving. He goes, all right, go this way. And this is the first time I've really ever driven. And I'm like, you're going towards the highway. He goes, oh, absolutely. That's where we're going. He put me right on 95, the first time I ever drove. Then he goes, you see that car down there? He goes, where are the cops? Go get them. And I'm like, I can't go over 55. He pulls his badge out. He goes, don't worry about it. So I'm white knuckling this steering wheel, driving for the first time, doing 80, trying to catch up to this car all the way down there. Scared to death. But hey, listen, I learned how to drive.
Hey, gang, welcome back to the next episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the morning. So glad you guys keep coming back every week. You keep me motivated. If it wasn't for you, I don't think I'd be doing this, but I love doing this. I think I'm working more hours now than I did when I was a cop, and I did that for 38 years. That's a hell of a lot of hours, right? But I love doing this. I love the opportunity to bring new heroes, studs and studettes in here on the show to introduce you to, whether they're current or former law enforcement, former military, other first responders, and, occasionally we throw in a former bad guy. Well, today's a good guy. So you can see our guest there. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an individual by the name of Nick Gerace. And did I get your last name right, Nick?
Well, the Italian way is Gerace. The American way is Gerace.
Okay, well, so I screwed that whole thing up. So we're going to call him Nick because I can pronounce that correctly. And he may have some Sicilian roots, which kind of concerns me because if I piss him off, I don't know what might happen here.
My roots go back in law enforcement in Sicily.
There you go, brother. And actually, I knew that. But Nick here comes from a long line of cops and barbers, believe it or not. And we're going to talk more about that once we get into his interview there. But, Nick, it is an honor to have you on the show. Thank you very much for coming on Game of Crimes.
Yes, sir. Honor to be here.
Well, let's hope you feel the same way when we finish, brother.
I'm sure.
I love it because pretty much with Nick and most of our other guests, there's nothing off the table. So we're going to have some fun today. But you know what comes up next? Every week we have our small town police blotter where we like to talk about some of the not so intelligent criminals that are out there. And today's no different. And before we get into that, Nick, I've got a disclaimer we read to our guests every week. This is a show about crime. We talk about bad people. We talk about bad people doing bad things to good people. Now, we do take our stories very seriously, but we never want to miss an opportunity to have a good laugh at the expense of one of these criminals that's out there. I'm not kidding. There's some of the things that they do are unbelievable. Nick has a really funny one today, and of course, I'm going to bring one from Florida. But Nick is in Pennsylvania, so he's going to bring us a story from Philly. Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you, brother.
All right. So this story is from September of 2023. It's a Philly-based influence, live-streamed looting. With a social media influencer from Philly was arrested during a looting that took place in Philadelphia under our glorious mayor, Jim Kenney, and I can say that with as much sarcasm as possible. Deja Blackwell, also known as Meatball online, was live streaming the whole thing. Listen, she is a meatball too, man. She's round. I know she is. And I got to give her credit, man. She had 12,000 followers that created basically saying that she incited the riot with all her followers and brought people to the scene. The mayor said that she's in jail because he's tough on crime, Kenny is. Blackwell was charged Wednesday with criminal conspiracy, criminal mischief, riot, and disorderly conduct, among other charges. In the video she posted to her Instagram stories, she appears to be cheering on the crowd, robbing the Apple store in Center City while shouting free iPhones. She can also be seen walking around a crowd as they move to different stores and driving to different parts of the city. It was around 8 p.m. when police started receiving calls that large crowds were making their way into Center City. The crime spree also happened in Port Richmond, which is my old district, Northeast Philly, and West Philly. Among the stores looted were Foot Locker, an Apple store near 15th and Chestnut, Lululemon. I don't think Meatball can fit in anything at Lululemon. Officials said Tuesday night looting had nothing to do with the peaceful protests that took place earlier after charges were dismissed against an officer who shot and killed Eddie Izzari. Police arrested at least 50 people. More expected. Again, that was 2023 2023, and I'm pretty sure our mayor and our district attorney probably let them all go by now. She may be responsible for a lot of other people being arrested, but she encouraged these folks, and they're quite frankly dumb enough to engage and participate. And there's also going to be consequences for that, and officials said of Blackwell's involvement. Well, the consequences are she's a YouTuber, a TV star. She's on Ruski, one of the popular comedians that's just coming up. She was on his show for Love recently, so she's making a whole lot of money out of this, making the best of it. So good for Meatball.
Yeah, that's called capitalism, which,
Yeah.
we're good with. But isn't it amazing how many people will follow some idiot like that?
Yeah. It's again, it's that crowd, that herd mentality. They see your live streaming free and they just come running out there as fast as they can. And in
And
Philadelphia, our district attorney, Larry Krasner, is such a scumbag. His moniker is Let Him Go, Larry Krasner, because that's what he does. Lets people go.
yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about him later on in the show here.
Got a lot
But I
to say.
just got to say, if there's going to be free items that you go get, we call it looting, but others call it shopping. The stores I would pick would definitely be Foot Locker and Lululemon.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, Lululemon. You gotta get them tights.
Hey, free iPhones. And just so you know, I'm still an Android guy.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I can't quite get into that iPhone. I got an iPad. We're doing this on a MacBook Pro computer, which works great.
And you don't like an iPhone?
You know what I don't like about it is the calendar. So, because on my calendar, I'll just show you here real quick. I can pull it up, and you can see. I just pull the screen up, and I can see everything. On the iPhone, you got to go to the date. You got to click on things. I can't find anything. I don't have time to go through 30 days a month.
I'm pretty sure that you can do the same thing. Look, I just pulled up. If you can see, I don't know. It's a little white. Whatever. It pulls up the same thing.
Don't burst my bubble, man.
Yeah, well, you got to come over, man. Come to the dark side. You're already 75% there. Just hop on in, man. Take the leap.
Everybody in my family has an iPhone except Pops.
Yeah, get that blue bubble. They'll be so happy when they see you texting and it's blue.
Oh, boy. Well, you never know where things are going to go. I mean, getting back to that story, it's any reason to not get a job and go steal from people. And that just seems to be acceptable.
It's free and they make money. There's no consequences in the city of Philadelphia, so why not?
And we know that it's not limited to Philadelphia.
No, it's not. It's wherever you have these radical district attorneys, pretty much is where you have these rioting and lootings.
Yep.
For the most part.
Yeah.
As dumb as they are, they're not stupid because they know they're not going to get in trouble.
Exactly. Yep. And for some reason, they keep getting reelected. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're going to touch on it a little bit later on because part of this is Nick's story. So we will touch on a couple of things, especially what he's doing now in life. We were talking before we started recording here, just because I'm getting older and I suffer from CRS, can't remember shit. And you see my shirt that I've got on today, Refracted Wolf Apparel. You've seen that before. And a lot of you guys are already followers of a show called the Anti-Hero Podcast.
Yeah, great show.
I've gotten to be good friends with Tyler and Brent over there. I've been on the regular podcast. Last week I was on their YouTube live. Love those guys. Their cut-ups. My wife was watching it. She's like, you look like a bunch of juveniles on there just joking and poking fun at each other. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I said, baby, I told you in man school as we're growing up, they teach us we don't have to grow up, and we don't. So, but if you haven't seen the Anti-Hero Podcast, this is Tyler's apparel brand, so you can get these shirts. These guys are so gracious over there. The thing I love about them is when you're doing a show with them, you're smoking a good cigar.
Yeah,
Brent's got his own cigar company, and they're good cigars. They're good Nicaraguan cigars.
That's what I hear. Yeah, you know what? I haven't got a shirt yet. I've done two live shows with them. I haven't gotten any apparel yet. Thanks, Tyler.
Tyler, what's up, brother? Come on, man. You got to take care of your crew.
To be fair, the last show, it was up in North Jersey. He's like, I got shirts for you, don't leave. And I had to jet. So that's my fault.
Oh, well,
I can't blame him anymore. That was my problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a part of that. Saw you guys there on, I guess it was YouTube, somewhere on social media. And I think you guys are maybe going to Dallas next, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's what I hear, Dallas. It's a good time. You should definitely come out.
Well, I've got an invitation, and we'll see what the date looks like, and if it fits into my Android calendar.
Yeah.
That seriously is. That's the only reason I still have an Android is because that calendar is just.
By the time we get done, I'm going to have you switching to iPhone.
Well, it's like teaching an old dog new tricks, too. That might be part of it. So anyway, big shout out to Tyler and Brent over at Anti-Hero Podcast. If you haven't listened to that show yet, go check them out. You never know what you're going to hear over there. If you're offended by language, you might not want to go over there. I rarely curse on here. Yeah, I try not to. Let me say, I'm trying to clean up my language.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Yeah, those guys do a great job, though. They really break down and get into the weeds with some issues, especially near and dear to their hearts. Brent with the military and the Tim Kennedy issues that they went through and a few others. So it's very interesting. If you haven't checked it out, people should definitely go in there and take a look. Absolutely. They don't hold back. They give their personal opinions, but it's also supported by fact. They do the research. Yeah. So
When I got over there, an hour before the show, and it was kind of hard to talk to them because they're really involved in getting things ready. And they've got Drew back there running the soundboard and the video board and all the social media board for them. There's a couple of guests. One guy was in he brought his daughter here for a cheer competition in Orlando. And he came over and spent the evening at the YouTube live event with Anti-Hero Podcast, smoking a cigar because he wanted to meet the guys.
Yeah, it's great.
And then there's some other people in there as well, but everybody's smoking a cigar, and you can see the clouds of smoke.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
puffing around there. And when you come out, it's about an hour drive for me to get home from where their studio is. I rode with the window down. I like cigars, but damn, it was strong. But they're in their new studio. They've got new equipment going on over there. The thing I like about them is they're willing to help anybody else get going. Like they're working with me on building out YouTube. I'm really trying to blow up YouTube this year. And I don't know how to do the shorts and the clips and things like that. And Tyler's like, man, I'll come to your house. You come to our studio, whatever you want to do. I will walk you through all this. So just good people there. Check them out. Anti-Hero Podcast. It's funny because the first time I wore the shirt on here, I had a trooper from Idaho, Justin Klitsch. And as soon as he came on the screen, he's like, I know that shirt. That's Anti-Hero.
That's right.
That's pretty good advertising and marketing there. So anyway, let's get on into your story here, Nick. The way we usually start out after we do all the silliness up front is tell us about your background, where you grew up. You got a strange accent that I'm having a hard time understanding, but we'll see if we can muddle through this. I want to hear more about your family dynamics, especially about your great granddad, your grandfather, your dad, all that stuff. So take it away, brother.
All right. So I'm going to take a sip of water first. Not water.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. This is coffee.
Water. Oh, my story. I grew up in Philadelphia. I guess I'm second generation Italian. My father was born here. My grandparents, immigrated from Italy. And when he was little, he was not allowed to speak Italian because they had to assimilate as fast as possible. And my grandmom didn't want them, because they were discriminated against. A lot of people don't realize, the Irish Italians when they came over, there's a lot of discrimination. They were treated pretty bad. In fact, a lot of people don't realize that Columbus Day comes from the largest mass lynching in the country was of Italian immigrants in New Orleans.
Wow.
Yeah, to make amends, that was one that was kind of offered up Columbus Day. So that's why you see that people are calling it Indigenous Day, and you see Italians getting pretty angry about it. It goes back pretty far. The generational trauma, as people say today.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you that Columbus Day is on my birthday, so I always thought they named it in honor of Murph's birthday. Yeah, of course. Columbus got nothing to do with Murphy, but hey.
No, well, listen, St. Patrick was Italian, so
there you go.
You can connect it.
It might be a stretch, but
yeah,
we're English-Irish, so there's a mix of everything in there. Who knows?
Yeah, we can connect it. So my great-grandfather was a constable, I believe, in Sicily. And, my grandfather was over here. Yeah, he became a barber. So there's a line of cops and barbers in my family. And unfortunately, I never met my grandfather. He passed away from a hernia operation in the 50s when my dad was 8.
Wow.
So, my grandmom raised 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy, being my dad, all by herself, barely speaking any English.
Right.
And even in the 80s when I was a little kid, you hear her curse and it would be son of a beach. It always used to make me laugh.
We kind of still say that as a joke, right?
Yeah, son of a beach all the time. That's the only English I think she knew.
Well, I mean, but she's not really cursing then. She's saying beach.
No, just saying the beach. It was PG rated.
She's being a good grandmother.
And my dad goes for high school. I don't even know. It's 1959, 1960. He's graduating. And a police recruiter came to his high school, and he signed up. And he ends up being one of the first 18-year-olds ever hired in the history of the Philadelphia Police Department. In 1960, they did a program where they hired a bunch of 18-year-old cops. So he was in his first class of 18-year-olds. And it's funny, actually, one of my sergeants, Sergeant Neiman, great guy, looked like Grandpa Stroman, actually worked for him. So I worked with one of my dad's classmates. Dad was retired when I got on. So he became one of the first 18-year-olds, and I believe for the first year and a half, they didn't even let him carry a gun. They worked inside. Wow. So finally, I believe the new commissioner came in and just said, this is ridiculous. They're cops. So he got them guns, and then they're able to go finally, after almost 2 years, they're allowed to go on the street and patrol. But they weren't allowed to handle issues at any liquor establishments. They had to wait for a supervisor. Yeah.
They can carry a gun. They can shoot people if they have to, but you can't buy a gun, ammo, cigarettes, or alcohol.
And you can't go into a bar to handle a job. You have to wait for a supervisor to show up if they weren't 21 or yeah, they're ridiculous.
Well, I mean, that was the way of thinking back then.
Yeah, so I had a storybook childhood, man. My mom stayed at home and raised everybody. My dad was a cop up until 1990, so I was about 11 years old when he retired. He did 30 years, 5 as a uniformed officer and 25 as a detective. He loved it. Never wanted to leave. Being a detective, obviously, 25 years is a long time.
Wow.
And he was able to do another career in insurance investigations for another 20 years. He had almost 2 different lives when it came to that, but kind of around the law enforcement sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised in that mindset, listening to my dad's stories all the time about police officers and the jobs and crazy stories, had us laughing all the time. And my dad always quick with a joke or always had a story. And whenever we're riding around Philly or story about a job he had here and a case he had there. And it's just something that was always ingrained in me. And it's funny having a police officer as a father. We used to call him the warden. I could barely ever sneak out. I always got caught. Finally, I'm not sure if my skills got better because I was like 17 with a license and I would sneak out and I'd let the car roll out of the driveway in neutral. I wouldn't start it until I got in the street. So I wasn't sure if he knew about it. I never asked him. I wish I did. My father passed since then. I should have asked him that. But, his nickname with me, my friends were the warden. So I get out of it. You got past the warden, huh?
Did he ever threaten to put you in the Eastern Penitentiary up there?
Man, so all my friends were always older, and I was a junior, and all my friends just graduated. It's June 2nd, 1996. I remember the day. And I'm over there having a couple beers with my friends. And listen, even in high school, you know how that one, just have one more. Yeah. So it's 10:30. I get home. I have school the next day. Well, that one more turned into 1:30 in the morning. Ooh. My dad was furious. First time he swung on me. And in my drunken stupor, I was able to duck it. He hit the wall, which pissed him off even more. And I scurried away into my room and locked myself in there. And then, boy, I was hungover. I was throwing up the next morning. And to their credit, they made my ass go to school.
Yep.
I remember sitting in school, hungover as hell. God, I was throwing up all day. It was a long, long day.
That's a very long day.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, my God. Well, you told me, too, I think that your dad was a legend within the Philadelphia Police Department, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's a few stories that went around that my dad was present for. And I would hear people talk about myths and legends. Oh, I heard it happened here, it happened there. And, I knew the real story. There's something about a pink bunny suit in the 1960s, getting a confession out of a guy. Won't go into details about it, but my dad was next to the guy. It was his partner in the bunny suit.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but I would hear people, that story's been told in the police department for decades. And it was always, I know who it was. I knew where it really came from. How I knew my dad was really good is I would have people seek me out, go out of their way, not just one or two, a dozen or so over the years. As your father, Salvatore, one of the best detectives I ever worked with. Multiple people. I had them grab me and just tell you how good your dad was on the stand. No one ever testified as good as he did. Wow. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. And people really went out of their way to come grab me to tell me that. So I knew it wasn't just like I ran into someone. He said, oh, your dad's this. Yeah, they would seek me out to tell me how good my dad was. So he left a lot of good impressions. I wish I was as good as my father was, but I was not.
Yeah, don't sell yourself short now. But it's fantastic to hear that other law enforcement professionals are coming up just specifically to tell you how good your dad was. Wow.
Yeah. That's even in the insurance investigation, there's a serial rapist. I think he was called the Rainy Day Rapist, actually, was his moniker given to him. And my dad found him. He filed in something to do with an insurance claim, and something wasn't right. And my dad got whiff of his case, and he ended up finding the van that the cops couldn't find and solved the whole case for him. Pretty much gave it to him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Hey, once it gets in your blood, it doesn't go away, does it?
Yeah, no. It's like I was at a CVS one time, and I was retired at this point, and this kid walked in front of me, and I just knew this guy's in a stolen car. And, he had a screwdriver in his back pocket. And I'm just like, oh, fine. It's just that little thing bothering me. So I follow him, get in my car. I think he thinks I'm watching him. So I drive down the street, but I pull a U-turn. He goes over to a work truck. I'm like, this kid's in a plumbing truck. So I called in. Sure enough, he stole it about 8 hours prior, and locked him up. And I end up going to court. I'm not getting paid for it, out of the goodness of my heart. Now I'm down there as a witness, and I almost fell over. Kid was there with his mom, and he was just like, yeah, I take full responsibility. I was going through a hard time. I plead guilty. I want to get help. I was like, oh, I've never seen that before in my life. So it had a happy ending. The
That's
plumber was happy.
extremely unusual.
Yeah, the mom was grateful that I did what I did and caught her son. He was happy about it and said, I was going down a dark road and hopefully this is my way out.
So even though you did that off duty, you didn't get paid to go to court?
No, I was retired at this point.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, retired.
Yeah.
Like you said, it doesn't leave you. You kind of know, right?
It really does. I've been retired since 13, and you still see things out here, and my wife gets so tired. I've never seen such bad drivers as they have here in Orlando. I'm not kidding you. All the places, they beat New York City. They're worse than L.A., all the big cities, Houston. Probably I haven't done any driving in Philly, but I'm pretty sure they're worse than up there.
I'll take you down to downtown Philly and let me know what you think after that.
It's every time we leave the house and go somewhere, every stinking time we go out, you see something stupid. And my wife, she gets tired of hearing this. She's like, well, if I was in uniform, I'd write him a ticket right now.
Well, listen, I'm not saying I did this, but you used to be able to hardback people a long time ago.
Hardback? Now, what's that mean?
You mail them a ticket.
There you go.
Yeah.
That worked?
Oh, yeah, it worked. You wouldn't get in trouble. It was a different world. Not saying that that's right or I ever did that, but you could do it back in the day.
Well, even if you did, it's statute of limitations have run out now, so you're okay.
So
now you mentioned
I have a theory about that real quick. So I've noticed driving everywhere, people are a lot more irate. And I think the comfort of being able to disrespect people through a computer screen and their phone, and it's been going on for so long, for the last decade now with Facebook, it's starting to carry over in real life. I'm watching people be ignorant with other people where any point in history, this never would have happened. But people have gotten so comfortable with it. They're so used to being disrespectful. It's carrying over, especially now you have a windshield in between you. It's the same thing as a computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's carrying over into the driving because it's a lot more road raging. And listen, I'm guilty of it myself. I F people up and down pretty much every time I get in the car.
Yeah.
It's not because of my driving. It's because of their driving.
I'll give you an example of that. So my next door neighbor here is Joe. When we moved in this neighborhood, which this is a very eclectic neighborhood here of nationalities, and as gringos, we're the minorities in this neighborhood. And Joe and his family are from Haiti. Love the guy to death. He's the first person that came in and welcomed us to the neighborhood. And every time you see him, we've been here 3.5 years. If I walk outside and he's out, I get a big hug from Joe. Just love the guy. Big man, strong man. He's a little bit older than me, but he's still stout. And so a few weeks ago, I'm sitting here working on the podcast, and my wife is texting me. I can hear her talking because it was a nice day. Got the windows open, the breeze blowing through. And Joe tends to talk a little loud, and I just figured that she was talking to Joe. Next thing you know, my phone goes off. I look at the text, and my wife says, "Get out here now." And then she sends a follow-up, says, "Call 911." I'm like, oh, what's going on out here? So I run out there, and there's a young man, 26 years old. We live on a lake, and our property, this is no kidding, our property lines actually go into the lake. So we own, each house owns part of the lake here. And there's no trespassing signs all around. And this kid, it's not the first time he's been here, and it's not the first time we've had an issue with him. He's fishing back there. And Joe's wife says, and Marie, his wife, is one of the sweetest ladies you'll ever meet, just soft-spoken. And, I mean, for somebody to even say something bad to you would just really piss you off. And apparently he pushed Marie when she told him that he was trespassing. So she yelled for Joe. Joe came out, saw him. Instead of going to confront him immediately, he went and got his water hose and came out and squirted him with a water hose. Well, that kid jumped the fence because we all got little fences in our backyard to keep the gators out, and they get into a fist fight.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, you little jerk. We've got cameras on the back of our house we've got a pool back there, and you could see my wife pulled that up, and so it's all caught on film and everything. So we call the deputies, and they send 4 guys out here. But that's what happens. What you're talking about, these people have become so emboldened by playing video games, whether it's Call of Duty. Let me tell you, I love Call of Duty. I still play at my age, believe it or not. But people think they're tough guys because they can kill somebody on a video game. And it was funny because the deputies, once they saw the video, they're like, wait a minute, you didn't tell us you squirted him with a water hose. Well, he's on my property. And they're like, well, that's a form of assault. Well, here in Florida, we have the stand your ground law.
Yeah.
You don't have to retreat. If you've got a gun and somebody attacks you, you can kill them. And I felt sorry for the deputies because one of them had a good sense of humor. The others were a little bit too tight. So Joe said, so I can't squirt him with a water hose. That entitles him to assault me. But if I'd had a gun, I could shoot him dead and I'd just walk back in my house and take a nap. They're like, yeah.
Unbelievable. So what happened? Did he get in trouble?
Well, they issued him a citation, and he's banned from our neighborhood, and if he can't even drive on the streets in our neighborhood, and
Good.
that kind of stuff. But he was here last year, and I happened to walk out, and him and Joe were yelling at each other, and my pool sits a little high, so I got the high ground looking down. And I said, "Hey, pal, just knock it off. You're actually trespassing. Our property lines do go out into the lake. Calm down. There's no reason to argue." "Well, see, you're being respectful. That guy over there, he was disrespectful." I'm like, being respectful and disrespectful will get you killed around here. Please, just leave.
Those fishermen love that too. They love to tell you don't own the water. I can go fish wherever I want. I see those videos online all the time.
Yeah,
Like people just looking for confrontation.
Yep. Yep. Well, he found it here. So, okay, let's get back to you. Man, talk about going off on a tangent. We really went off. So, I want to ask you, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
One brother, one sister.
Okay. And how do you fall in that stack?
Youngest.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm 10 and 12 years younger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you would think I was a mistake. And well, I thought that. I'm a realist. And then my mom shows me a handwritten letter one time. They tried to get pregnant several times. My mom had several miscarriages and they were going to adopt. They got the letter for adoption and they're about to go adopt a baby. Got pregnant with me. Here I am.
Surprise.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she put on that letter and showed it to me when I was, old enough. At first, I thought she was going to tell me I was adopted. I was like, wait, what?
Hey, brother, there's nothing wrong with adoption. Our two daughters are adopted.
That's great.
Yeah. When I was doing some research on you, you grew up in an area of Philly that has a strange name. What is that area known as?
The far northeast?
The Copland?
Oh, so yeah, I guess people outside of Philadelphia call it that. The far northeast, at one point, cops couldn't live outside the city. So what do? They go to the border. They get as far away as they can. So in Philadelphia, Philadelphia's a city of neighborhoods. From one tip to the other, it can take almost 45 minutes an hour, to get from one side of the city to the other.
Right.
So we're pretty much in the suburbs. So basically my neighbors are all cops and firemen, a lot of blue collar workers. But yeah, I had a great childhood.
Yeah. But you guys didn't call it Copland?
No, I guess people outside the city have called it. I've heard that before, but that's not something relative to Philly.
Okay. Yeah, it actually came out of a news article I got out of the Washington Times about you, which we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. I think it's the Washington Times. Yeah, it was. I've got the article pulled up here. Did your brother and sister go into law enforcement?
Nope, just me.
They got real jobs.
Yeah, they got real jobs. I hated school. Yeah, so I hated school. I always used to tell my mom, I said, listen, I don't care. I'd rather sit at work and get paid and hate work than sit in school and not get paid.
Yeah.
That was my flaw. I didn't want anything to do with college, so I knew I was going to be a cop. I took the police test at 18, got hired at 19, and I was in the academy April 5th, 1999, 20 years old, which I had no business being in police academy at 20 years old. Well, immature baby. I think that should change. You should have to be over 25.
Yeah.
Looking back.
If you remember during our initial phone call, I got hired at 1 month after turning 19.
Yeah.
Couldn't buy a gun, couldn't buy bullets, but I could carry that puppy and shoot if I needed to.
Crazy, right? We're babies.
We were, but I loved it. I mean, I fell in love with it and did that for 38 years.
My first day in the district, I'm like, man, can I just stay? I don't even want to go home. This is great.
And if you had off days, you'd come over and go ride with your buddies.
Yeah, well, we couldn't do that in Philly. You get in trouble with that one. But yeah, they don't want to see you. If you're off, do not be around. They don't want anything. Unless you're working overtime, you're not to be seen.
Is there some kind of history that goes along with that?
Just they don't want people getting involved off duty. Just liability issues. Comes down to insurance.
Yeah. There you go. That says it all right there.
Yep.
When you were in high school, did you play sports?
I played ice hockey. Yeah, I played soccer. I started out soccer, and I was actually quite good. I was in the newspapers a lot and playing a year or two ahead, and then I didn't like it. I wanted to play football. My mom wouldn't let me play football, which is a regret of mine because of concussions, but they let me go play ice hockey. Yeah. So
they get hit with a 95-mile-an-hour puck.
Or you're traveling 20 miles an hour, slamming into each other. I've got more concussions from hockey. Yeah, I was pretty good too, but no one ever told me when you hit people, you hurt just as bad as they do. I hit this one kid one time, man, he could have played in the pros. He was great. I told my buddy, I said, dude, he just keeps skating with his head down. I said, I'm going to get him. And sure enough, I caught him right at the where the puck drops, center ice. And I woke up on my hands and knees on the blue line, and I looked up. He was just helicoptering, spinning around. Broke his jaw. They had to take him to the hospital, knocked him out.
Man.
Yeah. but that was my first serious concussion. It was brutal. I was thrown up all weekend.
How old were you?
16.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't even drink that weekend. I went down the shore with my boy for the whole weekend. I snuck down there. My parents thought I was with family. It was me and him in a boarding house. I couldn't even drink. I was throwing up the entire time.
Oh my! It's a wonder you didn't die.
Oh God! And I took a play off, and then I was back at the center, and the ref comes up. He goes, "I shouldn't say this, but that's one of the best hits I've ever seen." Meanwhile, I'm trying not to die. I'm just trying to take the face off. Yeah, to play the entire game, and I was a serious concussion. I've probably had 6 or 7 serious concussions, and maybe a couple dozen minor.
I was just getting ready to ask you, did you learn anything from that? But it doesn't sound like.
No, it was that time, man. Just you rub some mud on it and get back in the game.
Yeah. In soccer, what position did you play there?
I started out at fullback, and then I had the biggest foot on the team. I take all the penalty kicks, all the indirect kicks, and then I end up sweeper, and then towards the end I moved up and played striker. But I had enough. I wanted to switch to something more physical. I was always slamming people and getting in trouble for checking in soccer.
Hey, as long as you can touch them when you do those slide tackles, go for the ball. Yeah, so our 4 kids, 2 of them played soccer growing up, and we encouraged certain actions.
Yeah. It's insane. It's the 80s, and my dad had this little box TV, portable, which was like high tech. And the screen was about that big, and all the dads would be watching the Eagles while we're playing soccer.
Yeah. So my youngest daughter, Mandy, she was playing in Atlanta. She was really good. I mean, she was in high school as a freshman. They were putting her on the varsity team. She's really good. 5'1", Colombian by birth, natural speed. Nobody could catch her until there's a colleague of mine at DEH, and I used to work for her. She was my ASAC for a while. And nobody could ever catch Mandy until I met Ava Cooper Davis's daughters. She had twin daughters, and they could outrun my daughter. That's the first ones we ever saw. But just what a blast doing that. I loved it.
It's fun. I took a year off, and then I went back to it. And I remember a tryout, my buddy's like, we're all lining up, and he goes, bragging, he goes, wait till you see Nick kick this ball. And I couldn't even reach the damn goal. And I'm like, what the hell? Man, my skills, I was at that age, I guess I was 11 or 12. Everyone else in that year took off.
Mm-hmm.
And my skills diminished because I didn't play an entire year. Only reason why I made the team is I played goalie. And that's all. I was like, the only reason why you made goalie. I'm like, no shit, dude. You think I don't know that? And that was it. I'm done. These guys it really hurt me, killed me taking that year off. I didn't have the love for it. I went back because my dad wanted me to play.
Yeah.
And that was it. I'm like, all right, ice hockey time. And I was playing foot and roller hockey the entire time. I was playing in a men's league. It figures the one hockey I'm great at was foot hockey, is the one that doesn't pay any bills. I was playing in a men's league at 11 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. Only a few shifts here and there that they let me go out and play, but by 12, I was full-time in the men's league.
Good.
So each year I had to sign the waiver out every year until I was 18.
Well, okay. All right. So you come to the police department now, and how long is your police academy there in Philly?
It was 9 months. So they started this program where it's pretty stupid. I get the idea behind it. They would swear us in as full sworn police officers, and we'd have to go out in the district for a month. We were only allowed to work with a supervisor, and then you come back, and they're probably using it to make us little narcs. We didn't know it. It was a program. Fill out all these forms, what you did, what you saw,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were the second class to do it. I went to the 12th district. It was great. But then just why not graduate us? Let us be cops. We went back for like 40 days. We played paper football. There's no itinerary left for us to do. We were sworn officers. There's really we just watched movies and day work for the next 6 weeks. So
they make you do physical training or go to the range or anything during that time?
No, we were sworn in. We're done. I mean, we're done the academy. So they end up getting rid of it because it was stupid. You're swearing these guys in. They're going out and being cops, and you're telling them to come back and do academy stuff.
It's a waste of manpower.
Yeah, that's what we did. The academy was a joke. I was a little embarrassed by it, to be honest, because you talk to other police departments, and they have some real high-tech stuff. We weren't all that high-tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our driver training, I think, we were supposed to do like the wet pad where you learn how to drive in the rain, all that stuff. They were just like, yeah, they're doing some work over there. We just skipped that whole segment of it. It didn't even do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, I can't keep my mouth shut even then. I wrote a scathing remark on there. What did you think? What could be improved? I kind of let my thoughts be known.
There you go. Well, you seem like a bashful kind of guy. I'm having a hard
Yeah,
time pulling information out
right.
of you here, Jay.
Yeah, listen, it gets me in trouble all the time. All the time. I
That's
just can't keep my mouth shut.
well, and I think that's going to pay off here when we get later in the interview about what you're
We'll
doing
see.
now. I like it. How many sworn personnel does Philly PD have?
We're short, like every other police department. At our full roster with civilians, I think we should be around 6,500. I think street cops should be around 45 to
Mm-hmm.
4,200 street cops. I think we got barely 3,000 street cops.
Jeez.
Yeah, the district I live in, the 8th district, is big. From one corner to the other, lights and sirens, it'll take you 25 minutes. It's one district. And
Man.
there's times where there's one or two people working overnight. Like,
Mm-mm-mm.
officer safety, huge. But, what's that doing for the community? It's bad.
Absolutely. It's dangerous. And it's
Yeah, well,
dangerous for the cops that are out there. That's
yeah,
how people get hurt. Talk about
yeah.
liability.
Yep, they can't get cops.
Yeah, it's funny that you say there's that many sworn officers in Philly because I think 4,600 is the number of authorized agents for DEA worldwide.
Wow. Well, I thought there'd be more than that, to be honest.
Yeah, now I think there's a total of 10,000 employees by the time you add the intel analysts and the diversion investigators and the chemists
Okay.
and all the support staff. But I think they're down. I'm going to guess they're down probably 1,000 agents right now. So they're down almost 25%.
Yeah, well, listen, the George Floyd riots, which is bullshit, put a real hurting on police departments.
It did. It did.
So I
This
started a political action committee to help get pro police officials elected, state and local level. I had around 270 candidates apply for our endorsement. How many do you think were Democrat? Take a guess. One.
wow,
Like,
that
yeah,
says
there's
a
a
lot
time.
right there.
Yeah, law enforcement was never a partisan issue.
Right. Right.
And just the way they vilified police officers, unjustly too. It put a real damper and a real hurting on recruitment. Why the hell would you want to be a cop? I don't recommend anyone being a cop this day and age.
Exactly. I was going to say, especially now.
Yep,
I'm glad that there's people that are still doing it that are willing to, they have the stones to put on
absolutely.
a uniform, man or woman, to go out there and protect people that they don't know, people that hate them. But,
Especially in Philly, we have a district attorney. There's several cops that have been locked up that have justly done their job, and he's thrown them in solitary. Kept them in prison, lied, falsified documents to keep them in prison longer, well, in jail, in holding, for the trial.
mm-hmm.
It's a disgrace. I can show you case after case after case. So I don't even know why anyone would, especially in Philly with a district attorney that's looking to just jam cops up constantly.
Right. That's
dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, the district attorney or the attorney general is the top cop.
Yeah. Yep. We have a radical who hates cops as the top cop in Philly.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I even said this back in 2000. I was never closer to getting arrested than I was being a cop, because you're always on that line, and whether you're doing something good, you can still get arrested.
Yeah, it makes you hesitant to do your job.
Yeah, I always looked at it this way. I'll worry about that old saying. I'd rather be carried by 6 than judged by 12.
You'd rather
the other way around. Yeah,
be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
And just in comparison, my first police department, we had 35 officers.
Wow. It sounds like fun.
Oh, it started back in 75, so this is a long time ago.
Were you on horseback?
Yeah, that's funny. You've been talking to my buddies, haven't you? It was exciting back then. It was more respect for law enforcement.
Oh, yeah.
The little agency that I joined, I don't know, so this 75, I think in the late 60s, some of the officers had gone rogue, and it might have been the mid 60s, but they were breaking into businesses and stealing and, just completely untrustworthy. And they all got indicted and they were convicted and went to prison. Rightfully so. I got no problems with that whatsoever. There's regular listeners hear me say this all the time. Nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
Yep.
And I still agree to that.
I agree.
A real bad cop. I'm not talking about accusations. I'm talking about somebody that actually did something wrong. Anyway, it was funny because you'd come on as a new officer, and occasionally you'd pull people over for a traffic violation or maybe a car wreck or whatever it might be, and they would throw something up in your face about that. Oh, yeah, I know all about you Bluefield cops. How much you getting paid off the books? Things like that. Screw you. You think now you're going to get out of a ticket?
Yeah.
Who's the dumb one here?
My favorite was the law student. It was always my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
They're over law students.
They think they're a Supreme Court justice now,
Yep.
don't they?
Yep. I gave this guy 6 tickets. I said, now you have something to talk about in your law class tomorrow.
Just for those that don't know, driving is not a constitutional right. It's a
Privilege.
privilege granted to you by the state. So don't think you have a right to drive a car. You don't.
It's so easy for probable cause to pull people over too. That they don't get it. Like even the registration sticker in PA, you'd have to put one top left corner next year, top right, following year, top left, and you go back and forth. If it's anywhere else on that tag, probable cause to pull you over.
There you go.
Objects hanging from your mirror, probable cause to pull you over.
Yeah.
And people just don't get it. They just think that they watch Law and Order and they think they're attorneys, they're TV attorneys. Now they're Facebook attorneys.
I was reading an article. I was telling my wife about this. I was reading an article just a couple of days ago about this big seizure out. I can't remember what state it was in now. It's out in the Midwest area. And as you read through it, it's talking about. So let me just go through this and you tell me what's wrong with it. These detectives see a car make an improper turn. They decide to follow it. So you've got PC for a traffic stop for an improper turn. And then as they're following it, they notice that the license plate bulb is not working. And they go to make another turn and they don't use their signal. They pull them over and find this massive hundreds of pounds of meth or coke or whatever it was. You think there's a snitch involved in there somewhere? First of all, a detective doing a traffic stop for a traffic violation. Things just don't add up here, right?
Yeah, definitely a snitch.
Yeah. This is just the stupid way the cops think. It's got nothing to do with me whatsoever, but I'm telling my wife, there's more to this story. They're not telling us everything. Hey, in your police academy, how many guys were in your class, guys and girls?
Oh, God. I think we have 3 full platoons, so maybe 90 or 120.
Per platoon?
The entire thing. I think it's like 25 or 30 per platoon.
Okay.
So it's 90 or 100 people.
Of those, how many graduated?
I'm going to say almost all.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we might have 1 or 2 that flunked out. It wasn't many. It's funny. We named this guy Nick Gerace. He's still on. He's a great dude. And he was all shredded. And I was thin, but I had a little beer belly. I like to drink. But I could do sit-ups. And he's like, there's no way you could do as many sit-ups as me. And I knew I could. I said, all right, bet.
Let's go.
We both banged out 65 in a minute. So we tied.
Wow.
He ended up winning the top athlete, the physical fitness for our class. And I won the best shooting.
All right. Very good.
Graduated with the highest honor in shooting in our class 328. It's funny, a friend of mine really wanted that. He was in a platoon. He really wanted that top shooting. And he knew I was good at it. So he took me out the night before. And we go to this bar. It's called Yellow Jacket. It's not there anymore. And boy, he got me tore up. I was still drunk shooting. Even to the point where when we were shooting the course, I had to give my gun to the instructor and run to the bathroom.
Whoa.
They had to hold the lineup and everything for me. I get back and I end up didn't work.
Your top shot. Top shot. This brings another story here, and listeners, bear with us here because this is what cops do. We get together and tell war stories. I was in the DEA Academy, and when I went through the academy, we were part of the FBI Academy, and then DEA eventually built its own academy about a mile away. But inside the FBI Academy and the DEA Academy, there is a bar that opens up in the evenings. The FBI one was actually open in the day. You couldn't get alcohol, but you could go get a sandwich, and it was more for instructors and people like that. But at nighttime, you could get a beer and mixed drink. It was only open for a few hours. So I would not go to the bar while I was in the DEA Academy because I had been shooting competition before I joined DEA. Been a cop for 12 years. And I was very good at it. And I wanted that top shooter award also. And there was another guy, Steve, from Texas. I can't remember his last name now. He was a really good shot too. So Texas or Kentucky? He was from Kentucky. Anyway, my roommate from Philly, believe it or not, worked for the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office working undercover bikers. So big man. He's like, Murph, we've been here 2 months or whatever it's been, and you haven't been to the bar yet. You're going tonight. So we go, okay, I'll go have one. But that one was like a really big one.
Yeah.
And
I've had one before.
And you're soused in a couple hours. You're just soused. And so we go back up the room, and the next morning we go, and they'll tell you when you're going to shoot to make the possible club. And the possible club means you score a perfect score on a 50-yard, the old police practical combat course.
Yep, that's what we pretty much shot.
So we come out to the range the next morning at 8 a.m. We're sitting there and like, all right, guys, we're shooting for the Possible Club today. Murph, you're up. And my head is just going. So I think I dropped one round, and I didn't make it. And Steve did make it, so he ended up getting the top shooter award. And years later, I became a firearms instructor and made the Possible Club. But
nice.
Alcohol is just so bad.
Yep. So my story with that 50-yard line, the asshole next to me shot my target. Oh. He did it twice. I shot perfect.
Did he do that on purpose?
No, he couldn't see. He shot my target twice. There's perfect rounds in my target, all the way from the 3 to the 50-yard line. And yeah, I had one bullet all the way down the hole, all the way down to the left.
Yeah.
And it's an extra hole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I said, yeah, we shot 50 rounds. I had 51 holes. What do you know? And they couldn't give it to me. So that's how I didn't get the Distinguished 100.
You know what we call that?
What's that?
Murphy's Law.
Yeah. And you know what? His name was Murphy. True story.
Man, it's sad, but it's funny now.
Yeah. He's still on a job. He's a funny guy. He's a good dude. The hardest I've ever laughed in my life, he couldn't do a barrel roll. You know, you stand there and you just roll like a tactical roll. Uh-huh. Couldn't do it. I mean, it's not funny to anyone else unless you're there, but it's one of the hardest I've ever laughed in my life that I couldn't figure it out.
Was he overweight or something?
No. He just was so discombobulated. He was not athletic whatsoever. He couldn't roll, man. And it was, like I said, I still remember it was one of the funniest I've ever laughed in my life.
We had a guy in our class that couldn't run. And he's this slender guy from New York City, little skinny Jewish kid, nice guy, but he could not run. It looked like when he would put his foot down to run, it was slapping the ground. And the instructors would tell him, look, you land on your heel and you roll off your toe. And they would work with him every day to finally teach him how to run. I'm thinking, how in the hell did you get in the academy?
Yeah, it's pretty funny, man. Some guys are just not athletic at all.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was having trouble. He was so skinny. He didn't have a lot of muscle mass. And he was really having a hard time making the minimum for push-ups. And so you're working as a team. You kind of feel sorry for a guy, and you don't have a whole lot to do in the evening anyway. And so we'd bring him in, and we'd all do push-ups in the room, in our rooms. We had 2 people to a room, and we'd just sit there and make him do push-ups. And he can go down and hold it and trying to build up his muscles. And he eventually made it through the academy. But dang, I'm thinking, how did you get through the practice PT just to come to the academy?
We had a lot. We had one guy, we used to call him the Rock. He was the dumbest individual I've ever met in my life. And every day when we're about to go home, he had questions. So we were there like another 10 minutes while he's raising his hand every day.
Oh, you just hate those people.
Yep. We had this driver training course. They had this police car on regular-sized monster truck wheels. And you would drive around like a serpentine and then come to a cone, and the instructor would either go right or left, and you'd have to cut the wheel and cut back depending on which side you went. And they're like, who wants to try the monster truck? And we were all smart enough and said no. Well, one girl's like, I'll show you guys. I'll do it. Man, I'll never forget the look on her face. She goes around, and they give her the cut, and she cuts it. And the thing goes up on 2 wheels. I've seen her. I was looking right at her. Her eyes were this big. It's going towards all our cars. Again, I'm pulling over. After I ran, I'm on the ground laughing my ass off. She just stopped short of running over a couple of cars. God, it was one of the funniest things.
Oh, jeez.
But again, I'm like, wow, these people are going to be cops, huh?
Well, we did have one guy in our class from New York City that had just gotten his driver's license. He's already 24, 25 years old and had just got his driver's license. So nobody wanted to ride with him.
This older woman, probably in her 40s, never drove before, got her license to get in the police academy. Still never drove. I swear she didn't know how to put the car in drive. She's reaching below her seat. You know how the old things, you pull the lever and you can pull the seat up and back? She was trying to put it in drive with that. I'm just like, I swear, not lying. And I'm like, oh, like she's gonna be a cop.
Nick, I tell you what, I've got a Patreon subscriber channel, and one of my monthly sections is you can't make this shit up.
Yeah.
That qualifies for that.
That's the truth. On my parents' grave, I swear, if I didn't see it and believe it, I wouldn't have believed it. She was, and they're like, what are you doing?
My youngest daughter, I taught my oldest daughter how to drive, and then I took my youngest one out, and I said, okay, put it in reverse. And she said, the Prindle. Have you ever heard of a Prindle?
No. Potato chips?
That's what I was thinking. And then I said, what are you talking about? And she showed me on the thing, it's park, reverse, neutral, drive, low. Prindle.
That's pretty clever.
Oh, yeah. She's in her 30s now. We still talk about the Prindle.
That's funny. It's funny. I actually just told this story to my daughter yesterday. She's turning 15, and she's talking about driving. I'm like, no way. But my dad knew a cop and started driving school. I never drove before. Guy picks me up and takes me up to the mall, puts cones out and describing math and how to park. He goes, all right, showed you that. He goes, let's go for a drive. And I go to get in the passenger seat. He goes, where are you going? Get in the driver's seat. I said, okay. And we're driving. He goes, all right, go this way. And this is the first time I've really ever driven. And I'm like, you're going towards the highway. He goes, oh, absolutely. That's where we're going. He put me right on 95, the first time I ever drove. Then he goes, you see that car down there? He goes, where are the cops? Go get them. And I'm like, I can't go over 55. And he pulls his badge out. He goes, don't worry about it. So I'm white knuckling this steering wheel, driving for the first time, doing 80, trying to catch up to this car all the way down there. It's scared to death. Scared to death. But hey, listen, I learned how to drive. The guy showed me a math trick too, to parallel park. I could put a semi in any spot.
Yeah.
With the way this dude taught me how to parallel park.
Well, that was with my first daughter. Back then I had a Ford F-150 pickup truck, 4-door with an 8-foot bed. I mean, that thing was like the city block long. And I was stationed in Atlanta at the time, and the little town we lived in had like a fairgrounds, and they had cones out there. They had the really big cones that were like 4 feet tall. So parents would take their kids out there and teach them how to parallel park. She could park that massive pickup truck. She's 4'11". I mean, she could barely see over the steering wheel. She's taking this big pickup truck and parking it perfect. To this day, she can still parallel park.
That's great. That's an important skill to have.
It is. It really is. Okay. Oh, let's see here. When you got out of the academy, now, obviously your first assignment is patrol. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Went down to the 24th district where I was assigned. It's funny, not to bore your listeners. Well, it used to be a dime, and then it was a quarter when I was in, meaning, use your quarter, meaning to call somebody for a favor. So my dad called someone for a favor and got me into the 26th district, which is a good district to go to. Busy, but still good. It's an East Division, which is one of the best divisions in Philly to go work. And someone in the academy in the class below me had a name similar to mine, which I won't say. And his dad was like, oh, okay, there's a class graduating, calls up and says, put my kid, says his name, in the 14th district. So I'm in the academy like a month before about to graduate, or 3 weeks, and I get called up to the commandant's office. I'm like, what the hell? He goes, oh, listen, you were scheduled to go to 24th. I know your dad had something to do with that, but this is what happened. This guy's dad called. You're in the 14th district now, and that is the last place I wanted to go. So he goes, I'm giving you an opportunity. Go use your quarter again and see if you can get to where you want to go. So and he gave me a quarter. I went to the payphone outside, called my dad. I said, you need to do something. I want to get down to the 14th district. And the 26th district slot I was supposed to have was taken, so I got to the 24th. Divine intervention, I guess. So I went to the 24th district, which is Kensington, which people see all over the news now. With all the heroin addicts slumped over Kensington Avenue. That was my beat, my patrol.
Was it like that back then?
Not as bad, but yeah, it was like that. It's pretty bad. Jeez. Being Indiana is the number one heroin corner in the country, and that was my sector. We were the only, it was 2418 car that I worked. That was the only mandatory two-person car in the city. And we were both allowed to take lunch at the same time, which no one ever did. You're a two-person car. You'd have to drop your recorder off to take lunch for 30 minutes and then pick them up. And then the recorder would drive and then drop you off for 30 minutes. That's the way it's supposed to be. Tactically, everyone just took lunch together.
Yeah.
But we had permission to be a two-person car and take lunch.
Jeez.
Yeah, because it was one of the busiest areas in the entire country.
Well, if you're the only authorized two-man car like that, that says it all right there.
Yep. 2418 car. And it's right around, if you ever watched the Rocky movies, where he lived, Rocky's house was in my district. That's right there. And running montages, and it was all around there. I actually watched them film Balboa, his last Rocky movie. It was in Kensington. I watched them film, and I didn't want to bother him. I wish I did. Everyone else got autographs and stuff. I wish I got a pair of boxing gloves autographed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy, so I just watched from afar.
We took our kids, when we lived in D.C., we took the kids up to Philly for a long weekend just to do the sightseeing thing. And the touristy part of it is very impressive. I have to say, the history that goes along with Philadelphia is a major part of our country.
Once we started here.
I loved it. And we even, because I was a cop, my wife's like, okay, there's a place we got to go. We got to go out to the Eastern Penitentiary. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great neighborhood now. Probably when you went, not so much. Oh, yeah, that's yuppie and more than up and coming anymore. It is. It's a great neighborhood. $1 million
Nice.
homes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So any listeners, you go up there, you need to go see that if it's still open for
Oh yeah.
tours.
Oh yeah. So they do self-guided tours. They give you a Walkman, which people don't
Yep.
even know what the hell that is anymore.
Yeah.
Do a self-guided tour. And Halloween, they have one of the best Halloween houses in the entire country.
I'll bet.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah. I get scared. I'll be honest with you. I don't watch scary movies. For
People
that
can
same
touch
reason.
you and all that shit. I'm like, nope, not for me.
Isn't it amazing? You go kick a door where you know there's an armed person on the other side of that door, but we're scared of watching scary movies.
Yeah, yeah. I remember going into a dark alleyway, just like, what am I doing? Looking for this guy with a gun, which I knew was probably in this somewhere. You know, guy has a gun, shot at a cop already. Yeah, I'm
Jeez.
walking down this alleyway, but yeah, I'm afraid of haunted houses.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm with you.
yeah.
But that prison, I mean, it's built like a big spoke out of a wagon wheel. I've
Oh
never seen
man, yeah,
anything like it.
yeah. That was, I believe, the Quakers built that.
I liked it. I mean, I enjoyed, and I went in the daytime. I didn't go at nighttime. And this
Al
was
Capone.
probably 17, 18 years ago. So I probably wouldn't want to be in that neighborhood at nighttime.
Nope, nope. Al Capone had a cell in there for a year.
Jeez. How
Eastern
about
State
that?
Penitentiary. Yep. Yeah, they have it all done up with what it would have looked like when Al was in there.
Nice. Well, I looked up some pictures today just to refresh my memory of the penitentiary, and I don't. It looks like now they have rooms with furniture in them, like that's what it would have looked like
Yeah,
back when the
that's
penitentiary was open.
the one. If you see the room fully furnished with a radio and stuff, that
Hmm.
that was the nice room that Al Capone had. Yeah,
I
he had a
saw that.
radio in there and a couch, and yeah,
Yeah, it looked like it had a chest of drawers and a dresser and a mirror and all
yeah,
that stuff
that
in
was Al
there.
Capone's cell.
Wow.
Yeah, he was
Wow.
taken care of.
Hey Nick, we've been going for about an hour now, and
We haven't even talked about anything.
I know, but we're getting ready to. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for part one of episode. I think we're 196. Is this episode number? Yeah, 196. We're closing in on episode 200 here soon. But you want to come back tomorrow because we're going to get into some of the things that Nick was involved with in his law enforcement career. He worked narcotics. He did some UC, extremely unusual undercover that I can't wait to ask him about. We can talk about a little bit about a career-ending event for Nick, and then we're going to talk about what he's doing now. And we've already alluded to a couple things. So you definitely want to come back tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming and joining us here. God bless everybody. We'll see y'all tomorrow.